Never get historical. I love the text, love keeps no records of wrongs. It has been my experience in marriage that sometimes it jots some things down on a napkin, though. So although there might not be any official records, there are evidences. And so never get historical. Like, let me give you an example of this just recently, this week in my own marriage. My wife and I, we'll talk about this in the last session. Our first 2 years were very difficult. Very, very, very difficult. And I thought in some areas of her life she was a hypocrite, and she thought in some areas of my life that I was a hypocrite. Surprise! And I mean, who's not? But we didn't know that going in. We were like, oh, we're both really holy. Oh, no, we're not. And so one of the things she used to feel back in the day was she was like, I just don't, when I'm trying to tell you what I think the Lord's doing in my heart, I feel like you don't listen to me. And are you really listening to me? And I was honest with her back then. I was like, I'm really not. I really kind of turn you off. It's hard for me to hear that from you because I know the issues we have. And I know what we're trying to work through. And I do feel like you're hypocritical at times. And I do feel, okay. So this past week, this is 6 years later. And we're sitting out on our back porch drinking coffee, and she's talking to me through this book she's reading, A Wounded Heart, and she's talking about, hey, I think I'm this, and this is cool, and I'm listening to her, but it's a beautiful fall morning. There's birds out. There's that, I'm just listening to her and taking in the fall. I mean, we're in Texas. There are 3 days of fall. I mean, that's it. There are 3 days. I'm drinking it in. All right. We don't even have fall. We have fell. So I'm doing all that I can to drink that in. I'm listening to her, and she goes and gets her hair done, comes home, and she's just upset with me. And I'm like, okay, my towel's hung. I have no idea what we're fighting about here. I put my towel up. I have no idea what we're talking about here. Well, and in the end, she goes, do you still feel like, I'm a hypocrite and I'm not honest with you and open with you? I was just like, what are you talking about? What are you talking? Well, I was trying to tell you about what, I was reading in this book and what the Lord was teaching me when I just felt like you weren't even there. And so, do you think I'm like, baby, you can't pull a file from 6 years ago. No, not at all, baby. Not at all. And so we had to have this talk again where, okay, let's not get historical. That was an issue. Those days are gone. Those days are gone. And this is one of the ways that, and I think you have to be really careful, your mind will take a simple conflict and make it even deeper. When you start going, oh man, remember that? Or oh, remember that? And oh, remember that? And this is one of the greatest tools that the enemy uses to really get after us and destroy us. Is there'll be just some little simple thing happen, and we'll take it and we'll run with it. We'll run with it, and every bit of historical data that might support that being true, we'll add. And in the end, he just left his underwear on the floor. That's what he did. All right? But in the end, he's having an affair, and he hates your body, and that's where it goes. And guys are just as bad at going this way with it. So never get historical. Here's a great one. Never try to win. I had a guy tell me in premarital counseling, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? 2 months into marriage, I found the flaw in his reasoning. What if being right makes me happy? What if what makes me happy is being right? All right? Yoda, your little thing doesn't work. So, I think when you get into that mode, when you get into this one, when you get into no, I'm right. And there's not going to be any moving, and there's not going to be any humility, and you're assured that you are right 100%, that you get yourself in a lot of trouble. And we'll get to why I think that is as we get into the end here. Number 8. Never raise your voice or call names, demean, or condescend. Yeah. The Bible's going to say it over and over and over again. The tongue is an unbelievably powerful thing. All right? And here's how I know it. Women are more vocal than men to begin with. They're very relational aspects, so words are unbelievably powerful to them. And that's how you can watch it in the female. Here's how you can map it in the males. I've never sat down with a guy who, if I pushed and prodded and tried to find it, he could tell me of something harsh that was said to him when he was 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th grade that he still every once in a while thinks about and wishes he could go back in time and handle differently. This time he punches the guy in the face. This time he has that clever comeback sprung loaded. This time he's got that. Every dude I know can think back to this moment in junior high or high school where something was said to them that devastated them or infuriated them, but they just weren't strong enough to do anything about it. They weren't witty enough to say the right thing back. And to this day, every once in a while, they'll replay that scenario again in their minds, except it'll have a different ending because this time they had pepper mace with them, or this time had a little bat with them, or this time they knew the exact response. All right? Now, this is how I know words are very powerful, even to the male. All right? Because males like to play it off like the only way you could hurt us is physically, if that. If that. All right? But it's not true. It's not true. Never use sex to win an argument. I think this is almost 95% of the time a female issue. I don't know that I've ever even heard of the relationship where the man's like, sorry, no more of this for you. All right? Now, if that's happened, please come tell me. All right? You're in an elite level of something. All right? Come tell me because we have a varsity jacket for you. All right? If you can pull that off, you are varsity. Sorry, baby. Shop's closed. Shop's closed till I get my dinner, all right? If you can pull that off, let me know. I think usually the sex to win an argument deal is a female issue. It's I will use this to control, to manipulate, to get what I want. Be careful. Be careful with that, all right? And here's 10, and here's where we'll really address the pride issue, because I think the onus of this falls on the male. I think the responsibility for this falls on the male as the leader of the home. Look at verse 10, or number 10 is this. Never let the sun go down on your anger. Now, let me try to explain why. If you don't, now I'm not naive. There are going to be nights where you're not going to be able to solve it, all right? And what will happen is we're not going to bed till we solve this, all right? Now you're exhausted and it's just gotten crazy, all right? Here's what we'll do. We'll cut it in half, You're like, what? The car? No, all right? We can't, it doesn't run that way. So there are times you need to go to bed, but as best as you can, and here's what, I'll put all of this on the shoulders of the men. There are moments where we have to own our part, no matter how small that part is, to try to bring some semblance of peace to the home before we go to sleep, lest you let the devil have a playground in your home the second you close your eyes. That overnight deal allows the root of bitterness to start growing deep. So here's how I think it happens. And let's say your wife is 99.9% to blame on the conflict. I know most of you are like, I don't have any problem imagining that. Let's say she's 99.9% responsible. Let's say she did it. She didn't even apologize for it. She did it full on. But what you did when you found out is you blew up. You blew up and you yelled. You compared her to her mother. You blew up and you yelled. And now you're laying in bed. I think everybody's experienced this that's been married. You're facing that wall. And she's facing that wall. And it's just eerily quiet and cold in the room. I think the onus falls on the man to roll over, tap her on the shoulder, and say, honey, I apologize for my 0.01%. No, don't use math, all right? If you use math, it'll go even worse, all right? It'll get more. But I do think the onus falls on the man to tap her on the shoulder and say, I responded poorly to that. I did not respond in the way that Christ has asked me to respond. I need to ask your forgiveness. And then let it be over. Go to sleep. Don't, and the reason I'm saying that is because here's the heart of most males. I apologize for that. I shouldn't have responded that way. You got something to say to me? No? Well, I take it back then. All right? Why? Because what I already said it. We love to get a response. And so in the end, you're not even apologizing for your part. You're trying to manipulate an apology out of her. Good luck. Good luck. No, you got to own it. Just own your part and then roll over and be done with it. Because what you've done here is now the onus is on her. Or if it was the other way, it's on him. Now they've got to deal with the Lord. They've got to hear and they've got to respond. But you've done what's right before the Lord. And now, is there a root of bitterness going down in your person's heart? Now, there still might be some wrestle there, but you've done a pretty good job of severing it just by being kind and gentle. By stopping the escalation. By owning your part, you stop the escalation. Right? Don't let it go down in your anger. And definitely don't not address it at all and then wake up in the morning and pretend like there never was an issue and never talk about it. That's my favorite. Just like making the house a minefield. Let's just never address these things until one of us steps on them and blows her leg off. Yeah, so just, have the conversation. Anyway, don't let the sun go down. Now, 8 steps to listening, and then we'll get back into the text. Listen with your face. Listen with your face, which means don't have your back turned going, no, I get you. Look at her, look at him. I think this is more of a male issue. Number 2, don't use reason to overpower feelings. Here's what happens. A woman will go, I just feel like, and a man immediately just starts thinking of all the reasons why she is not supposed to feel that way. So we almost don't even wait for her to finish speaking. We're just kind of looking at her mouth. Okay, all right, yeah, all right, okay, all right. Wrong! And here's why you're wrong. So now, not only does she feel disrespected and like you don't love her, you've just gone, and you're stupid. And you're stupid. So you have to acknowledge the feelings. The feelings are there, even if they're based off of things that might not be true. All right? You don't use reason to overpower feelings. Don't argue. Don't argue. I think there are times you have to let it lie, even if what's being said is wrong. Don't interrupt. Don't interrupt. 5, don't leave. I would tell you that there is a time to leave. I would say that although you shouldn't leave, if you've got nothing but venom in that moment, you've got nothing but rage, I don't think there's anything wrong with going, baby, I'm going to Starbucks, I'm going to get a cup of coffee, I'm going to take a walk in the park, and I'm going to be right back, and we can finish talking through this. But I can't do it right now, man. I am freaking out. I cannot do this right now. Give me a second. And I think if that card is ever played, the worst thing the other person can do is go, no, now. I mean, when you've got your spouse who's thinking well enough to go, if I say anything here, I will regret it for a long time. One of the dumbest things you could do is go, no, say it. No, you're saying it. You're saying it right now, because then all you did is took that thought that they were thinking that was probably completely inappropriate and bumped it up to like a rated X level. All right? Let them walk for a few. Let them walk for a few hours and then come back and you just set the appointment. Go for your walk. Come back and let's finish this. Everybody breathe. Everybody breathe. Don't go talk about your spouse to your friends. I think if you want to talk, you go talk about what you have to own. And then I love 7, which I think is more of a female issue. Don't use rude body language. I think you've just got to really watch rude body language. Rude body language. All right, now, let's get back. Now that we did our little journey there, let's get back into the text. 6, we'll pick it up in verse 4. She finds him in the garden, and then here's the conversation where these things are gleaned from. You are beautiful as Tirzah, my love, lovely as Jerusalem, awesome as an army with banner. Turn away your eyes from me, for they overwhelm me. Okay, now watch this. This sounds very, very, very familiar, so follow me. Your hair is like a flock of goats. Same old game, baby, leaping down the slopes from Gilead. Your teeth are like a flock of ewes that have come up from the washing. All of them bear twins. Not one among them has lost its young. Your cheeks are like halves of pomegranates behind your veil. There are 60 queens and 80 concubines and virgins without number. Verse 9, my dove, my perfect one, is the only one of her mother, pure to her who bore her. The young woman saw her and called her blessed. The queens and concubines also, and they praise her. Who is this who looks down like the dawn, beautiful as the moon, bright as the sun, awesome as with an army with banners? Here's what just happened. She comes down and finds him in the garden after God's done all this surgery on her, and he's going, who is this woman? I mean, who is this woman? I mean, an hour ago, I'm rapping on the door, and you're not even opening the bedroom door for me. I got to reach through and put a little Valentine on the doorknob. And now you've run down and found me and are doing nothing but praising my physical form. Who is this woman? You can tell that in the middle of all this, there's been some real forgiveness. Now watch this. Watch this. Let's look at this. Verse 11. I went down to the nut orchard to look at the blossoms of the valley, to see whether the vines had budded, whether the pomegranates were in bloom. Before I was aware, my desire set me among the chariots of my kinsmen, a prince. All right? Now look at this. Return, return, O Shulamite. Return, return, that we may look upon you. And then here's the big thing I want you to see. Why should you look upon the Shulamite as upon a dance before two armies? The best way I could explain to you what's happening here is not only has there been forgiveness that now has been established as they've come back together and really a restirring of romance between the two, but now all of that sorrow and all that shame and all that difficulty and all that pain that both of them endured through this process has turned to dancing. So not only is there forgiveness now, but it's altogether forgotten, it seems. I mean, because he's using the honeymoon spiel on her again. They're both dancing. It's over. It's not, I mean, it's over. It's over. Now, conflict is going to be one of those things that defines what happens in our marriage. It just really is. How we handle it, how we go about it. Here's the other thing. It will reveal our own sin and our own insecurity more than anything else. Our own sin and our own security. Our issues are going to, like, for a long time I felt really kind of suckered into this Christianity thing because the message I heard was that Jesus loved me, and if I'd come down, he'd fill me with joy. But nobody told me the second you gave your life to him, he would start tilling up the very deep places of your heart, and the darkest, nastiest things in you would come to the surface so he could deal with them and increase your joy that way. No one ever preached that message. No one ever said, come on down, it's going to be beautiful when it's over. I mean, no one ever said that. I've never heard that preached. I never heard, oh, he'll sustain you while it lasts, but you're going to bleed. No one ever told me God disciplines all those he calls sons and scourges those he loves. No one ever pointed me to let the bones that you have crushed rejoice. God crushes bones? When? I mean, no one ever showed me that John the Baptist in prison sends word to Jesus, are you the one or should we expect another? And Jesus responds by giving him an Isaiah benediction that John the Baptist would have known, where the blind see, the lame walk, the poor being ministered to. But the last line of the Isaiah benediction is, and the prisoners go free, but Jesus leaves that part off. You see what he just sent back to John the Baptist? I am the one, and you're going to die in prison. No one ever got to the end of Moses' story where God takes him up on the mountain and goes, there's the promised land. And Moses like, oh, these last 40 years for the promised land. Yeah, you don't get to go in. I'm going to kill you up here on the mountain. What? Never taught that one in Sunday school. Ever. They're like, Moses is this. Moses, how does it end? Never mind. It's not important. God loves you. Okay, all right. No one. Whatever says there's going to be some pain here, there's going to be some pain. And boy, one of my favorite guys ever is Jeremiah. God comes to him and says, if you'll say what I tell you to say, I'll give you the power to build up nations and to destroy them. What man is going to accept that? I mean, what man, if God Almighty is like, I'll give you the power to build up nations and destroy them, and going to be like, yeah, I'll take it. Yes. But then every time Jeremiah says what God wants him to say, he gets beat up and thrown in a ditch. So midway through Jeremiah cries out to the Lord, you have patad me. You have seduced me. You have tricked me. Like nobody ever tells us this stuff. Nobody, and then even, Christian marriage gets elevated to this thing where like there's not going to be all that many struggles because we love Jesus. This is an absurd, I'm telling you. And so then what's happens is all these Christian people get married and they skip into it, and then the 18-wheeler runs them over. And then they don't even feel like they can tell anybody that an 18-wheeler rolled them over because they're supposed to be happy and loving Jesus. No, what if one of the things that happened in marriage is God used marriage and two sinners trying to live together to dig up really deep, dark things and have them handled? So it's how we handle our spouse in this process, the grace by which, the sanity by which, the gentleness by which we handle our spouse that will define the depth of our intimacy in marriage. Because in these moments, you can attack and destroy any real shot at genuine intimacy.